This year's C.S. Lewis Festival runs from the 3rd to the 7th of November at various venues across Belfast, and Festival Director Rachel Kennedy joins me now in the studio to tell us all about this year's festival. Rachel, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Robin. Yeah.
So another busy time for you. Last time you were here plugging the East Side Arts Festival. Now there's another festival in East Belfast.
It's all happening in East Belfast, yeah. So the 6th annual C.S. Lewis Festival happening next month, and we're really excited about it. It's probably the largest C.S. Lewis Festival that we've run to date. There's almost twice as much going on as we had last year, so more than 70 events and more than 30 venues.
Wow, so we'll talk about the programme in a minute, but how did this whole festival come about? What's the background to it? Well,
I think probably most people would have a good understanding and a knowledge of the work of C.S. Lewis, but what not everybody, even Northern Irish people, would be familiar with is the fact that Lewis's background and family background is very rooted in Belfast. So his grandfather was the first rector of St Mark's Church at Dundela, and Lewis spent a lot of time here as a child with his family, and he also spent a term here at Campbell College where he went to school. So there's actually a lot of imagery that flows out of his time as a child and as a young adult in Northern Ireland, and across actually the entire province, that feeds into his novels, most markedly the Narnia Chronicles. So a number of years ago, it was an anniversary of his death, and it was suggested that it would be great to celebrate Lewis. So we put on some events, and they were really popular, and people really loved being able to explore Lewis and his connection to Northern Ireland and his imagination and his legacy. And it was going to be a one-off, but it went so well that we've been doing it ever since.
Of course, you had lots of people coming in to East Belfast to visit the C.S. Lewis Square, don't you, as well? They can do that any time of year.
Yes, so C.S. Lewis Square is a wonderful resource now and a beautiful public space for people to come and enjoy as families, or just, to walk through or to cycle through. It's got a fantastic cafe there in the East Side Visitor Centre, which is a tourism centre that you'll find all sorts of information about how to explore East Belfast, and fantastic Jack coffee shop. And there's also Freight, which is the pop-up restaurant in the shipping containers just on the edge of C.S. Lewis Square. So it's a very exciting venue, and it's a lovely place to use for a festival because it's a real gathering point. It's got a great sense of energy, and people love to come and hang out there, and hopefully we'll be putting on lots of fun stuff to make it a good reason to come across.
Let's talk about some of the highlights of this year's festival, starting with the Day of Magical Thinking.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it? Yeah. So our curator is the wonderful Jan Carson, and she has curated a day of events for all ages that are going to take place in the Skenos Centre on the Newtonards Road, and there's something for all ages really, but focusing in and around the magical realism genre. So anything that involves kind of fantasy or futuristic narrative fiction. So workshops in kind of creative writing. We've also got a visual arts workshop which is taking place at the new pop-up artist studio, which is the Vault, where the old Belfast Met building.
Yes.
They've taken over that space, and it's a stunning artist-led collective. It's a wonderful space. So visual arts workshop happening there, and then the rest of the events happening in Skenos Centre are very much around engagement with the kind of sci-fi and fantasy fiction. So there's some great stuff for young people. For example, there's the Super Duper Superhero Workshop, right, where young people get to come along, and it's not just as the guy that runs it says, it's not just a question of pinning on your cape and off you go. You're going to need to think this whole superhero thing through. So who would be your alter ego? What would be your day job? All those kinds of things. So it's really good fun and a really great way to engage with maybe a different sort of writing or a different sort of reading.
Now, you mentioned the connection between C.S. Lewis and Campbell College there. There's stuff going on there as well, isn't there? Yeah,
we've got a lovely event taking place there, and it's called Of This and Other Worlds, and it's an evening of music and poetry. So we've got two wonderful local poets, so Damien Smith and Bernie McGill, and then we've got the musicians who are the Darkling Air and the Arco String Quartet. And those artists in the first half will perform and deliver work that relates to things that are of this world, and then in the second half they'll relate it to otherworldly topics. So I think it's going to be a very gorgeous event, and of course Campbell College is a stunning venue, Lewis went to school there. We'll be in the central hall, which everybody thinks is rather like Hogwarts, and it'll be beautiful. So I think that'll be a very special evening.
Now, staying with music, I know Anthony Toner's doing some stuff as well, isn't he?
You can't have a festival in East Belfast without Anthony Toner. So and Jan Carson. So the two of them coming together to do a fantastic event, which is called Future Sounds. So they're just going to collaborate on some ideas around their favourite writers, their favourite musicians, their favourite songs. Jan is very much into her music, and Anthony is very much into his books. So they're a lovely combination of artists to have on stage, and of course both incredibly poetic about how they talk about poetry and music and the events that inspired them and excite them. So again, that will be a very unique event.
Let's talk movies, and of course you have to show Shadowlands, the C.S. Lewis story, yeah.
So it's an anniversary this year for Shadowlands, and we're very excited that we've actually got George Fenton, who is the music score composer for the film. So George is going to come over and take part in a post-show discussion, and also talk a bit about how the music, like the music of any film, is nearly a key character as much as the rest of the film. So it'll be wonderful to have George with us, and just a bit of an added bonus on top of what is a very much loved, very special film.
And of course your movie events are happening in the Strand Cinema, which is such a lovely old building in East Belfast.
It's wonderful, and a huge part of the cultural fabric of East Belfast, and a fantastic venue, So they're running a number of different events, so there's things happening, lots of lovely free things happening for children and families there as well. You can do a cuts and bruises makeup workshop there, which is kind of fun, special effects workshop for young people, and there are a number of different screenings happening as well as you said, as Shadowlands. So
the Wizard of Oz is happening. Exactly. If any kids haven't seen, they really should see it, shouldn't they?
They're saying it's a great kind of grandparent-grandchild movie experience, so that's a lovely one, especially if you haven't introduced the younger generation to the Wizard of Oz. This is the perfect opportunity.
So we've talked about all the big venues, then you're looking at smaller venues like Robin's Hobby Cafe as well.
Yeah, named after you. So it's a new space, which is wonderful, on the Hollywood Road, and it's a lovely cafe where you're encouraged to come along and take part in various kind of crafting activities. So the workshops that are being run there have a kind of a Narnian theme. So you'll be able to come along and make your own Aslan, for example, and there you can do a workshop where you make a little keepsafe box. So a number of really different, lovely, imaginative events for young people to come along and get creative and get crafty.
Great stuff. Okay, if people want more information and they want to book tickets and stuff, how do they do that?
Everything's on the website, so that's www.eastsidearts.net. They can also call into the Visit Belfast Welcome Centre, and they can give them a call as well.
All right, Rachel, thank you for joining us, and the very best of luck with the festival.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.